Michael Jordan was cut from his high school varsity team. Let that sink in. The greatest basketball player ever. He was once told he wasn't good enough. He didn't argue. He didn't complain. He went to work. Years later, he walked away from the game. People said it was over. Then he came back. Older, sharper, more relentless. And he didn't just return, he dominated again. Tiger Woods was written off too. Injuries, public failure, pain that most people would never recover from. The world moved on without him. Until one Sunday, one walked down the fairway when he proved that comebacks aren't about talent, they're about decision. Then there's George Foreman, once the most feared man in boxing, then forgotten. Years passed. Age stacked up. People laughed when he returned. And then, at 45 years old, he reclaimed the heavyweight title, not with speed, not with youth, but with belief, discipline, and standards. Here's the truth. Every great comeback starts the same way. Someone decides, this story isn't over. So let me ask you, where did you give up on yourself? And what would happen if the next 21 days changed everything? Because that's what this video is about. Not hype, not shortcuts, a real comeback. In 21 days. The problem that prevents your comeback is this. Most people don't collapse overnight. They drift. Slowly. Quietly. Almost politely. One skipped workout. One delayed decision. One, I'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow keeps moving. That's the real danger. Not failure. Because delay feels safe. Failure feels loud, and loud things get fixed. For quiet decline, that goes unnoticed. One day, you wake up and realize something hurts. Not your body, your confidence, your drive, your belief in yourself. You still function, you still show up. But the fire? It's dimmer. And here's the problem no one talks about. You don't need a crisis to lose momentum. You just need comfort. Comfort lowers standards. Standards shape behavior. Behavior shapes life. That's the loop. And once you're in it, days start blending together. Weeks disappear. Months slip by. And the scariest part, nothing is wrong enough to force change. So nothing changes. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt genuinely proud of how you showed up for yourself? Not what you planned, not what you talked about, what you actually did. If that question stings, good. That sting is awareness. And awareness is where every comeback begins. Because the truth is simple. Life doesn't wait for clarity. Opportunities don't wait for confidence. Time doesn't care about intention. It only responds to action. And right now, the clock is moving. Whether you decide or not, this is why urgency matters. Not panic, not pressure, urgency. Urgency is the decision that says, I'm not waiting to feel ready anymore, because readiness is a trap. People wait for motivation, for certainty, for the perfect moment. That moment doesn't come. Momentum comes first. Clarity follows. And here's another hard truth. If the next 21 days look exactly like the last 21 days, nothing changes. Same routines, same habits, same internal conversations, same results. That's not pessimism. That's cause and effect. So the question becomes unavoidable. If nothing changes, how long are you willing to tolerate that? 6 more months? A year? Longer? And what does that cost you? Not just in results, but in self-respect. Because every time you tell yourself you'll do something and don't, you train your mind not to trust you. That's how confidence erodes, quietly. And here's the urgency most people miss. You don't lose belief in one dramatic moment. You lose it in small, repeated moments of inaction. That's the real emergency. Not that you're behind, but you're getting used to it. Used to playing smaller. Used to settling. Used to saying, this is just how it is. No, that's not how it has to be. But change doesn't start with fixing everything. It starts with a decision, a line in the sand, a moment where you say, enough. Enough drifting, enough negotiating, enough waiting for permission. Day 0 isn't about action. It's about ownership. You stop blaming time. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop blaming other people. Not because they didn't matter, but because ownership gives you power. And power is what you've been missing. Day 1 is where urgency turns into movement. Not massive steps. Simple ones. Clear ones. You don't overhaul your life. You interrupt the pattern. You do one thing today that the old version of you would avoid. One uncomfortable action, one honest choice, one promise kept. That's how momentum begins. Let me ask you another question. If someone watched your actions for the next 24 hours, would they believe you want your life to change? Sit with that. Because your answer tells the truth. This isn't about guilt. It's about clarity. And clarity creates urgency. Urgency says, I don't need the whole plan. I just need to start. Because once you move, even slightly, something shifts. Your posture changes. Your energy changes. Your self-talk changes. You stop feeling stuck and start feeling engaged. This is the moment most people scroll past. But the ones who don't, they change direction. So here's the choice. You can close this video and keep doing what you've been doing. Or you can decide that today matters. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Because every great comeback, every single one, starts with urgency. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. And it starts right now. This is how to reclaim your energy. Nothing changes if your energy stays the same. Read that again. Because this is where most people fail. They try to fix their life while running on empty. That never works. Low energy creates low standards. Low standards create weak decisions. Weak decisions create the same results. So the comeback doesn't start with goals. It starts with fuel. The first 7 days are not about being impressive. They're about being alive again. Because tired people don't chase purpose. They chase comfort. And comfort is expensive. It costs discipline. It costs belief. So day one starts with a shift. You stop asking, what do I feel like doing? And you start asking, what gives me energy today? That question alone changes everything. Most people wake up already defeated. Phone first. Other people's opinions first. And before the day even starts, their energy is gone. So you do the opposite. You create space, not hours, minutes. You wake up in no rush. You breathe. You remind yourself, this day belongs to me. That's not motivation. That's ownership. Energy responds to ownership. Movement comes next. Not extreme, not dramatic, just movement. Because emotion follows motion. You don't wait to feel energized to move. You move to create energy. A walk, a stretch, a few deep breaths with intention. And suddenly your body wakes up. Most people underestimate this. But the body sets the tone. When the body is flat, the mind follows. So you respect the body this week. You hydrate. You eat with awareness. You go to bed a little earlier. Not perfect, just better. Because better compounds fast. And here's the rule for days 1 through 7. 1 win per day. Not 10, not everything. 1, a win you decide in advance. Finish the task, make the call, do the workout, say no. 1 clear promise, 1 clear follow-through. Why does this matter? Because confidence doesn't come from thinking. It comes from proof. Every completed action says, I do what I say I'll do. And that message changes how you show up. This week is also about leaks, energy leaks. Things that drain you without permission. Endless scrolling, late nights with no purpose, conversations that leave you heavy. You don't eliminate everything. You become aware. And awareness creates choice. Let me ask you something. What drains you the most right now? Not in theory, in real life. That thing costs you more than you think. So for 7 days, you protect your energy as it matters. Because it does. This is where people notice a shift. They feel clearer, lighter, more present. Not because life changed, because their state did. And state drives behavior. Here's another key. You stop multitasking. You do one thing at a time. Because scattered energy produces scattered results. Focus feels powerful. And power feels motivating. You don't chase motivation this week. You build momentum. Momentum is created by completion. Start. Finish. Move on. That's it. Some days will feel easy. Others won't. That's normal. This isn't about feeling good every day. It's about feeling in control again. Control restores confidence, and confidence restores drive. Let me ask you a hard question. If your energy reflected how much you respected yourself, what would need to change? Sit with that. Because this week is about self-respect in action, not talk. Not intention. Action. By day 4 or 5, something interesting happens. Your internal voice changes. It gets quieter, less chaotic. You stop arguing with yourself all day. Because decisions are already made. That's freedom. And freedom feels like energy. By day 7, you won't be a new person. But you will feel something powerful. Momentum. And momentum is addictive. You'll realize, I don't need to overhaul my life. I just need to manage my energy. Because once your energy comes back, your standards rise, your focus sharpens, your belief returns. And now you're ready for the next phase, the phase where identity shifts, but it only works because you earned it here. 7 days, simple actions, protected energy. This is how a comeback stops being an idea and starts becoming real. The way to shift your identity is this. This is where most people quit, because this is where it gets real. You're not just changing habits, you're changing who you believe you are. Up to now, it was about action. Do this, don't do that, follow the plan. Now it's about self-image. And that's much harder to change, because your identity is comfortable, even if it's holding you back. The old identity will fight back, not loudly, quietly. It will whisper, this is just a phase. You always fall off. Why try? This isn't really you. Other people can do this. Not you. That voice isn't the truth. It's just familiarity. Your brain is wired to protect the version of you it already knows, even if that version is tired, even if that version is stuck, even if that version is unhappy. The mind prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. So when you start changing, it panics. It looks for excuses. It looks for loopholes. It looks for comfort. This is the moment most people self-sabotage. They skip one day, then 2, then they start Monday, and the old identity wins. But this is also the breakthrough moment. The moment when you stop negotiating. You stop asking, how do I feel? You stop asking, am I motivated? You stop asking, do I feel ready? Because feelings are unreliable. They change daily, sometimes hourly. Identity is stronger. So you ask a better question. What does the stronger version of me do today? What does the disciplined version of me do? What does the future version of me expect from me right now? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. New identity, new standards, not extreme, not perfect. Just consistent. You keep promises, even small ones, especially small ones. You wake up when you said you would. You move your body even when you don't feel like it. You finish what you start. You don't ghost your own goals. Because every small promise kept is a vote for your new identity. And every broken promise is a vote for the old one. This is how identity is built. Not through affirmations. Not through motivation. Through evidence. Real, visible, undeniable evidence. Confidence doesn't come from words. It doesn't come from thinking positively. It doesn't come from believing in yourself. It comes from proof. Proof that you show up. Proof that you follow through. Proof that you do hard things when no one is watching. At first, the evidence is small, almost boring. One workout, one focused session, one day of keeping your word. But stacked over time, it becomes dangerous. Because now your brain has a problem. It can't say, I'm inconsistent. When you've been consistent for 8 days, it can't say, I never finish. When you're still here on day 10, it can't say, this isn't who I am when you're acting like this every day. Identity follows behavior, not the other way around. You don't become disciplined and then act disciplined. You act disciplined and then become disciplined. You don't become confident and then take action. You take action and then become confident. This week is about closing the gap between who you are and who you keep saying you want to be. No more fantasy self. No more one-day version. Just the real you in real time, making real choices. Let me ask you this. Who are you becoming if you stay consistent for 14 days? Not in theory. Not in your head. In reality. What kind of person wakes up and does what they said they would for 2 weeks straight? That person doesn't need motivation. That person doesn't rely on mood. That person doesn't wait for perfect conditions. That person is different, calmer, stronger, more self-respecting, more dangerous than their old limits. Hold that image, not as a dream, as a direction. Because the identity shift isn't something that happens to you. It's something you prove every day with action. And that person, that version of you, they're not in the future. They're being built right now. After shifting your mindset, you see these changes in yourself. By now, something has shifted. Not dramatically, not in fireworks and applause. Subtly, quietly, internally. Your posture is different. Your shoulders sit back without you thinking about it. Your voice is steadier. You speak with less hesitation. Your excuses sound weaker. Even to yourself, you don't argue with them as much. You just move. This phase is about proof. Not promises, not plans, not potential. Proof. Real evidence that you are no longer the person who quits halfway. Real evidence that your word actually means something again. Real evidence that your actions and intentions are finally aligned. You finish things, even when they're uncomfortable. especially when they're uncomfortable. You don't need perfect conditions anymore. You don't wait for the right mood. You don't wait for motivation to magically appear. You act first. The feeling follows. This is a massive shift. Most people live the opposite way. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel inspired. And they stay stuck. You don't. You show up when no one is watching. No likes, no praise, no external pressure. Just you and the standard you've decided to live by. Because self-respect is built in private, not in big moments, not in public wins, in the small, invisible decisions. The alarm you don't snooze, the task you don't avoid, the workout you don't skip, the boundary you don't break. Every action says something. It says, I can trust myself. I do what I say. I don't need to be forced. I don't need to be convinced. That's powerful. Because once you trust yourself, everything changes. You stop overthinking. You stop second guessing. You stop living in constant internal debate. You make a decision and you execute. Trust creates momentum. Momentum is addictive. It makes action feel lighter. It makes the effort feel easier. It makes progress feel natural. You're no longer dragging yourself forward. You're being pulled by your own consistency. Momentum creates belief, not a fake belief, not hype, not motivational quotes, real belief. The kind that comes from seeing yourself show up again and again. The kind that survives bad days. The kind that doesn't collapse the first time things get hard. And belief creates results. Not instantly, not magically, gradually, predictably, inevitably. Because someone who trusts themselves doesn't sabotage their own progress. They don't disappear when it gets uncomfortable. They don't abandon the process when it slows down. They don't betray their future for short-term comfort. They stay, they adjust, they adapt, they keep going. This is the real transformation, not the external stuff, not the habits, not the routine, the internal contract. The one that says, I have my own back. I don't lie to myself anymore. I don't make empty promises. I finish what I start. That's rare. Most people don't trust themselves. That's why they seek constant validation. That's why they need accountability. That's why they keep restarting their life every few months. They're not fighting circumstances. They're fighting their own inconsistency. You're building something different. A track record. A history of showing up. A pattern of follow-through. A reputation with yourself. And that's worth more than motivation. More than talent. More than potential. Because talent without trust collapses. Potential without proof disappears. But proof compounds. It stacks quietly, day after day. Action after action, until one day you realize something. You don't need to convince yourself anymore. You already know who you are. You're the person who does the work. You're the person who doesn't quit. You're the person who handles discomfort. You're the person who follows through. That identity is unshakable. Ask yourself, what would change if I trusted myself again? How would I move differently? How would I speak differently? How would I choose differently? What would I stop tolerating? What would I finally go after? That's the real comeback. Not a glow-up, not a reinvention, not a dramatic reset. A return. A return to the version of you that keeps their word, that respects their time, that doesn't need external pressure to do what's right. The version of you that doesn't hope for change. They expect it. Because they've already proven it. The comeback that lasts is this. Here's the final truth. A comeback isn't dramatic. It doesn't look like a movie scene. There's no soundtrack, no sudden breakthrough moment. No one is clapping in the background. It's quiet, daily, relentless. It happens in ordinary moments, in boring routines, in choices no one else sees. It's what you do when you wake up tired. What do you do when you don't feel inspired? What do you do when the excitement wears off? That's where real change lives. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait for confidence. You don't wait for clarity. You act and readiness follows. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates direction, not the other way around. Most people get stuck waiting to feel different, waiting to become someone new, waiting for life to give them a sign. But signs don't create change. Decisions do. You don't chase motivation. You build structure. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls. It disappears under pressure. Structure is neutral. It doesn't care how you feel. It keeps you moving on good days and bad ones. Structure is what makes progress boring. And boring is powerful. Because boring is repeatable. Boring is sustainable. Boring is what actually works. You don't need more hype. You need fewer decisions. Wake up, do the work, move forward, repeat. That's it. And when setbacks come, and they will, you don't quit. You don't self-attack. You don't throw everything away because of one bad day. You adjust. You zoom out. You look at what broke. You fix the system. You keep the identity. Because setbacks aren't failure. They're feedback. They show you where the friction is. They show you what needs to change. They show you what still isn't aligned. Old, you would quit. Old, you would disappear. Old, you would use it as proof that this never works. New, you treats it like data. No drama, no self-pity, no stories. Just a correction, then continuation. That's maturity. Because this time, you're not doing it for attention. You're not doing it to impress people. You're not doing it to post progress. You're not doing it to prove a point. You're doing it for you. For your future energy, for your future confidence, for your future self-respect. You're doing it so you don't have to restart again in 6 months, so you don't have to give another "this time is different" speech, so you don't have to feel disappointed in yourself again. This time, the motivation is internal, quiet, stable, unshakable, not driven by emotion. Driven by identity. You're no longer chasing a result, you're becoming a type of person, the type who shows up, the type who follows through, the type who doesn't need external pressure to grow. That's the real comeback. Not a moment, a direction, not a burst, a pattern, not a reset, a standard. So here's the question that matters most. Are you willing to give the next 21 days a real chance? Not a half effort. Not a let's see how it goes. Not a version where you keep one foot in your old habits. A real chance. Not perfect, not fearless, not superhuman. Just honest effort. Showing up even when it's messy. Trying even when you're unsure. Continuing even when progress feels slow. Because consistency beats intensity. And honesty beats hype. You don't need to change your whole life today. You just need to stop lying to yourself. Stop saying you want it if you won't act on it. Stop calling it a goal if you won't protect it. Stop waiting for a future version of you to save you. You are the future version. Right now, every decision you make today is either building the life you want or reinforcing the life you're trying to escape. There is no neutral. So choose. Because the greatest comeback of your life doesn't need permission, doesn't need validation. It doesn't start with confidence. It starts with a decision, a quiet one, a personal one, a non-negotiable one. And that decision can happen right now. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, my friends.